morning, everybody. I should say Happy New Year. Welcome back. Welcome back. We did a podcast yesterday. There was a show last week. But welcome back. We're meant to do these Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at 8:30 a.m. Good morning. It's early, but we're getting it started. It's early. We're getting it started. Welcome to the show. Happy New Year. It's so nice to be back. I've got the comments off on TikTok. The comments are on YouTube. So hop on over there for comments. Otherwise, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. There's a lot to go through. There's a lot going on. There's always a lot going on. Otherwise, if you're doing radio and there's not a lot going on, you have what they call dead air. And there'll be none of that today. There'll be none of that today. So stick around, sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and get ready for the show. I didn't even mean to make that rhyme. Happy New Year, Megan. I see Megan over there. I see turkey love. Turkey love? Is that what you love? Turkey? Well, I don't know what you love. Turkle love. Doesn't really matter. So Happy New Year. Doesn't, because I mean, it's not your real name anyway. Whatever your real name is, happy morning to your real name. And Happy New Year. So listen, here's the thing right out of the gate. I have the comments off on TikTok. I have the comments on YouTube. And Alicia, thank you. And now, if I am being really, really honest, I thought the comments were off on YouTube as well. That is okay. They will remain on. But I often find myself wanting to do a broadcast for a minute. I want to pump the brakes on and I love what I call interactive television, because really, whether you want to call it streaming or whether you want to call it TikTok or YouTube, we really are on the forefront of interactive television. It's happening around us. It's been happening. It's quietly occurring. And I think if you look at the world of streaming, and when I'm talking about streaming, I'm talking about live streaming on Twitch, live streaming on TikTok, live streaming on YouTube. And then you compare that to streaming, as in Netflix and HBO or Max or whatever it's called, and Peacock, if anybody, has that. Same term, different thing. At the end of the day, it's all TV, right? At the end of the day, it's all TV. It's all broadcast. And I often find myself wanting to broadcast for a minute and just get these thoughts out without me personally being distracted. And I often find myself losing my footing with whatever I'm doing by reading the comments. So I wanted to say a whole bunch of stuff today that, I can't imagine any of it's that incredible or insightful or even interesting. But nonetheless, I just feel like in the minute, I need to just get some stuff out because it's interesting to me, and I want to talk about some of these things unencumbered by the chat. So I'll leave the chat on YouTube, but in all honesty, what I'm trying to do is just focus, and do a little broadcast, because we call it streaming, we call it whatever it is, but it's podcasting. It's a broadcast, and I'm trying to do radio here, and there's a different thing when you do radio. So good morning to everybody on TikTok. I see you over there. Thank you for tuning in. But that's all. That's all it is. There's no I turned off the comments the other day because I was trying to concentrate. Same premise. I was tinkering with tech stuff, and then I'm getting all these notes from the chat. I don't need notes. I'm sharing a little insight to what I'm doing. So sometimes I just find myself distracted by the comments. So in the spirit of doing a broadcast right now and just getting some things out. Hold on. In the spirit of just getting some things out, I wanted to kind of do it this way today. All right, so hold on. Let me just prep myself here for this show we're doing. And we'll see what happens. So I have a couple things off the top. Number one, Golden Globes. All right. Now, I'm watching the I didn't watch the Golden Globes. I shouldn't even say I'm watching the Golden Globes, because it's so weird, almost to my larger point here. I didn't watch the Golden Globes. I consumed clips of the Golden Globes, but I feel like I watched the Golden Globes. You're on the air. No, you're not. Oh my gosh, it's Ellis. Ellis, you're not on the air. Stand by. What is he doing? Are you there? No, you're not. You're messing up my whole groove, bro. I just talked about not being distracted, and then you're like, well, I'll show him. Hold on, dude. Oy vey, Izmir. Are you there?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Okay, how can I help you?
I don't know. I was returning your call.
Returning my call? I'm doing a radio show.
Okay.
All right, you want to sit here and listen to what I have to say for a minute?
Okay.
Did you watch the Golden Globes?
I did not.
All right. So I'm watching, and I just said, I didn't really watch the Golden Globes, Ellis, but I feel like I watched the Golden Globes, you know what I mean? Because, like, I saw enough clips, but I didn't really watch it. So I just wanted to correct myself, and then you called. So let me just get back to what I was saying. But just, are you busy?
No.
You don't have anything going on?
No.
All right. It's weird. I thought Monday was your busy day. So, okay, just hang out with me for a second, and I'll get your thoughts. Now, I'm consuming clips of the Golden Globes. And I see this red carpet clip. And in this red carpet clip, this giant black van pulls up. And it's like the size of the kind of van you could land a helicopter on. That's how giant this van is. It's not a minivan. It's not a 16-passenger van. It's like it's like an armored tank. And who walks out of this thing? Little Ariana Grande. I'm telling you, it was like watching Polly Pocket exit a Hess garbage truck. I mean, it was like why? Like, she could come out of a regular car and make a grand exit. Why does she need to be in that giant vehicle? Does she have that many people in her entourage that she's running around in a mobile office building? Thoughts, Ellis? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
You don't want to opine?
No.
No, you just want to sit back and okay. So my whole thing is, I get it. You're going to like come out of a limo. That's not a limo. It's a giant van. And she's so small. And she's got this look, like this post-Wicked look. I don't know what's going on, but she looks like a porcelain figurine that would spin on the top of a music box. Like, she looks like, if like she trips and falls, she's going to shatter. And then she's sitting there with her co-star. Okay, and those two, I'm almost sick of seeing those two together. And I haven't even seen the movie. I want to see the movie, but I'm sick of seeing those two sitting together. I don't know why. Maybe that's just the over-marketing of the movie. But I'm tired of that.
What's she sitting with?
She was sitting with her co-host, her co-star. What's her name? Cynthia?
Oh.
In Wicked? Mm-hmm. What's her name? Cynthia Erivo? Is that correct?
I don't know.
Oh. Well, that makes two of us.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but I think that actually speaks, to be fair, to how much the movie was marketed that you get tired of the imagery, But you loved Wicked. So, I'm talking to the wrong person, right? Would you give Wicked a 9.9?
No, I gave Wicked a 0.
You gave Wicked a 0? I'm talking to the wrong person. Anyway, so that's all. I didn't really watch the Golden Globes. I saw that. That was my big takeaway. I think Nikki Glaser, her opening monologue was funny. It had just enough edge for broadcast TV to satiate what the producers wanted by hiring a roaster. And good for her. Good for her. I thought it was fun. You didn't even watch the opening monologue, Ellis?
No.
Unbelievable. What did you watch instead? Wrestling?
I don't think so.
Yeah, okay. All right. Anyway, now I gotta move on here because it's the new year. Okay. A lot's happened. Hang out, listen to what I'm saying, but I gotta switch gears here, topic wise, Ellis. Now,
all right.
You drink coffee, Ellis?
No.
I love a cup of coffee. You may not know that about
cup of Joe.
I love a cup of Joe. Love a cup of Joe. And lately, I've been going to Dunkin' Donuts. Now, this Dunkin' Donuts, I've been a fan of Dunkin' Donuts since I was a kid. Growing up, Ellis, I drink the Dunkachino. It was fantastic. Love a Dunkachino. My friend Nick, growing up, we'd go 11 o'clock at night to Dunkin' Donuts, get a large Dunkachino. Now, back then, Dunkin' Donuts didn't even have hash browns, okay? Maybe you could get a schmear on a bagel, that was it. Now they're doing the whole breakfast thing. They got a couple things for lunch, which are questionable. Both in size and price. Not in flavor, but in size and price. However, they drop these meal deals, Ellis, And last year, they had a $6 meal deal. Now, I put a lot of thought into the profit margins here. The $6 meal deal was a bagel or a croissant sandwich. You get egg, cheese, bacon, whatever you want. You get the hash browns and a medium coffee. $6. Right?
What?
There's a decent profit margin in there. But I got to believe the bagel's fairly pricey. Bagel might be the most expensive piece of the pie. The coffee doesn't cost boop. They're making the coffee all day. The coffee is a minimum, right? So even if it's 75 cents for the hash browns, and maybe between the egg, the cheese, and the bacon, it's another 75 cents. Maybe it's another 75 cents for the bagel. Now they've switched this $6 meal deal to a $5 meal deal. But I can't help but think they've increased their profit margin. So I'm obsessing over this stuff, I'm fascinated by it. And all of that to say is I'm consuming tons of Dunkin'. Okay, that's the real point of the story. And I've just gotten back into Dunkin'. There's a Dunkin' in the Walmart. You go to Walmart?
Not really. Sometimes.
What are you, more Target?
Yeah.
Yeah, your Target has a Starbucks in it? Right. So my Dunkin' has my Dunkin' is a Walmart. That's how I look at it. Everybody else, it's a Walmart with a Dunkin'. To me, I'm like, yeah, my Dunkin' is a Walmart attached. Which, side note, Costco is going to be doing, I read, Live Above Costco in LA. They're going to do like a live, I wouldn't call it live work, but it's sort of a live, like Costco is going to have housing up above their store in LA. Would you live above a Costco? Is that something that interests you? Live above a Costco. Would you do that?
No.
No. Is there a store that you would live above? No. So, needless to say, I knocked the microphone. It's so unprofessional. Needless to say, I go to this Dunkin' all the time. I was going to Starbucks. Catherine got me wrapped up in this Starbucks game. So I got lured back to Starbucks because I was like, well, I'm playing the game. I got all but one sticker for every fakakta prize that Starbucks has in the app, Good Morning, but the umbrella. All right? And I must have 24 entries for some Delta sweepstakes that nobody's ever going to hear about again. It is a scam. Do you remember the Monopoly game at McDonald's?
I do not.
All right. It's like that. Yeah, back in the day, you could go to McDonald's and you would get Monopoly stickers, and if you collected all the right pieces, you'd win prizes. But nobody won anything other than a hash brown or a chicken nugget. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I know you love your chicken nuggets. So I'm just saying, the sweepstakes ends. I won 25 stars, which is nothing. Maybe it tipped the scale on a free cup of coffee for me, but it didn't provide me a free cup of coffee. But what a ruse. What a ruse. At least with Dunkin', the ruse is transparent to me. They're luring me in with the meal deal because today, with this new meal deal, this $5 meal deal, which is no longer a bagel, instead you're getting 2 little wraps, and those wraps don't cost them but 10 cents each, if maybe 5. There's no hash brown, right? So they're picking up money by taking the hash browns out of the equation. They're picking up money by bringing the bagel out of the equation. All right. I'm eating less bread, so I'm not complaining because, bread, not just filling, Ellis, but it contributes to gaining weight, as you know. Right?
Right.
So I'm not mad at it, but I'm good with Dunkin', even though I know that the meal deal's a ruse because I'm walking out of there with that $5 meal deal now feeling like I could still eat. I want my cup of coffee. So for almost the price of the cup of coffee, I'm getting these 2 little bites to eat in the morning, and I know it's all a lure to get me to spend more. And today I added the hash browns. And I know that I'm being manipulated by the whole gamification. But I'm okay with it there because there's payout. All right, I don't need to play some fakakta game with stickers to win an umbrella or to win the further chance of winning, which is never going to happen. So Starbucks sent a survey this morning. I filled it out. You fill out the surveys when you get them? I'm sorry, what?
Just woke up.
No, I said, do you fill out the surveys when you get them?
Oh, I did not.
Feel free to hang up at any time.
Yeah.
All right. That's going to be in 3, 2, 1.
1.
Are you hanging up? Wow. I just want to see how long he'd hang on. Hilarious. The comments are up. I meant to have the comments off everywhere. I'm trying to focus. So the meal deal, I'm at least okay with because I know it's a lure, but I also know that I get my points and I'm fine with that. That level of gamification, I'm cool with. Okay, if you're familiar with the term gamification, if you just look at any particular industry outside of the gaming industry and you look at when they use a game or gameplay to achieve something, and in this case, it's a marketing ploy, all right? But it's gamifying, right? It's gamifying your purchases. So when you download these, when you have these apps, which I never got into, and I fully blame Catherine because I stayed away from them. And let me tell you something, Catherine, because I know you're out there, all right? And I don't know if you're listening live. And Catherine is the sweetest thing in the world. So she'll take this with a chuckle, I'm sure. But I'm not joking. Because I swore, I downloaded the Taco Bell app back in the day and deleted it. You know, and I toyed with the idea and I said, I'll never do it. She lured me in with the Starbucks app because I was consuming so much Starbucks. Okay. Then to find out that most of the Starbucks benefits don't even pay out in the park. Okay. She lured me in with that. So then I fell for it with Dunkin'. And then the other day I get a coupon in the mail for a free pizza from Papa John, but it required me to log in. I didn't log in the app. I logged in the browser. But I'm like, okay, well, I might as well get points there if I'm going to order a pizza. I don't want to be ordering Papa John pizza, but it was a free pizza, so I'll take a free pizza. I blame her because she hooked me in because it's gamification, you see. But that's the future, and that's really what I want to talk about because all of that to say is that the gamification of content, the gamification of everything. I mean, if you look at the medical industry, the medical industry has implemented gamification. The medical industry has been gamified for years in a much different way. I mean, and that could be as simple as using joysticks to control lasers. You see what I'm saying? But gamification. So one of the things that I found so fascinating about the marathon we did, and we will be doing another marathon post Live Fest, and we'll talk about Live Fest and all that nonsense in a minute. I found so fascinating the social component of Spotify. Out of all the things that we did, out of all the technology I tapped into, it was actually the social component of people being able to play a Spotify playlist, which they were only hearing through my external microphone. And if you want to get technical for a minute, I could have been running that right back into the feed and everybody could be hearing that in the live and we could get there. But I'm so fascinated by that social component. I'm all over the interactive side, but there's so much to tap into in the social side. So I start to look at these things, and as I stated a little bit to Kenzie yesterday on the podcast with her, being in the front of those new areas has always been of interest. I have an interactive patent I've talked about a little bit before. But what fascinates me about all of this is the social side. You know, when you take the gamification and the social side and you marry them together, I mean, you're talking full interactive television. And interactive television doesn't just mean click to do something. That is certainly a part of it. But when you add that social and that game component, I think of when TikTok did remember when TikTok did the Disney trading cards? The Disney trading cards yielded nothing. It was a game for nothing. There were no prizes. All you did was collect fun stuff. You couldn't really do anything with them. I think at the most it unlocked a little crown on your profile picture or something. So it was like, okay, that's your big prize. But there was a social element. And it actually bled into the live. And I guess in many ways, if you think about it, that whole game was really meant for consumption on the live because of the social component. But I think about what made that game so fun and of interest. And I think they're doing it with Sonic. But the social side, the way people now suddenly have this sense of that they're all there together doing something and participating in something together. And I think the reason that the live streams have been successful and continue to be successful, and you can use different metrics to measure the success. But I think the reason that is so successful is because of the nature of the format. People like to have that common experience. And as we've talked about many times before, the age of water cooler television no longer exists. Now, we use the term streaming to get back to that notion, but it is really broadcast television. I said this at the top of today's show. The reason I wanted to turn the comments off is I wanted to do a broadcast. And every time I look over and see the comments, I get heavily distracted by what's being said. And I know in many ways now the numbers go down because some people just want to type and hear themselves talk. And if there's not a forum to do that, they're going to go find the forum to do that. Other people just, genuinely want to engage, and there's that. But like when I'm reading other people having conversation that has nothing to, it becomes a distraction. And even the desire to filter those out visually and find the comments of the people that are actually trying to contribute, it just becomes a lot. Hence the phone lines. But I'm trying to make the delineation between a broadcast presentation and a live stream. Now, the live stream from the parks I would call interactive. And they're interactive because you are literally engaging with the chat. Doing a radio show, in my mind, and maybe I'm showing my age here, is a broadcast presentation. So I just sometimes feel like I need to focus. The reason I wanted to do this today out of the gate is just because I wanted to focus. Now, all of that being said, when you look at the social side and the interactive side and where it could go, and you look at that Spotify element, okay, and you say, where could it go? I mean, we are talking about interactive television. We're not talking about streaming anymore. I think there is still a desire to watch linear television. I think the reason that the marathon worked for so many people is because they felt like they could jump back in, right? Maybe you had to go run some errands. You come back and you jump in. In other words, you're tuning into a channel. And the storyline is the marathon, right? Which contributes to the social component because now you get to go, what did I miss? What are we doing? What is happening? And all of those pieces. It's not just 6, 7, 8 different shows in a row. There's a through line. However, I do think in the vein of the replays that there is a space for linear presentation with both live and pre-recorded content. People can go watch things on demand on YouTube. But I think if you look at where things are headed as a whole, this has all been, and somebody tweeted something about how the streaming, and now I'm talking about the Netflix streamers, the Disney Pluses, how that has contributed to the downfall of television. And it was really well written. It was just a tweet, but it was very well written. And it's so true. It's so true. But I think what's happening is we're actually coming full circle. So my head is at and where I'm focused is on the idea of building an internet television channel that has the ability to present just like a regular station, live and pre-recorded content. And that gives you the benefit to now feature other talent. I use the term loosely because I'm not calling myself talent. I think I made that joke yesterday, but it's not a joke. But it gives you the opportunity, at least me, to then look at the size and the scale of what you're doing and go, oh, I can bring in others and I can diversify, and now I can have a place where people can go and you can have that social component. Again, I think one of the things that worked about the marathon is even if I took a break and there was a harmonious replay running, people were still hanging out in the chat. That connected element was there. So I'm learning all of these things coming into the new year, prepared to execute on them. And I just find it particularly interesting how some of these things were just accidental discoveries. The Spotify component, no thought of that. I think that was more of like, what is this feature? We were going through the different features. What is this feature? And when I think back, I've talked about this before, when I think back to this, I went to this event. I really don't like events, okay? And that'll get us to the next conversation, which is Live Fest. I really don't like events. Like, I'm already thinking of 100 reasons not to go to Live Fest. So, but I was on this rooftop event in LA years and years ago, probably over a decade ago, easily. In fact, yeah. Probably closer to 2 decades, but certainly a decade and a half. We're on a rooftop. It's a Microsoft conference / party, and all these developers are sharing prototypical software that they've developed for social media viewing. Now, this is before the era of social media. I mean, I don't even think Facebook was prevalent at this point, if it even existed. It may have been brand new, okay? But I mean, we're talking like pre-iPhone. I mean, we're saying like, you can develop this stuff now and you can conceptualize this stuff now, much like the early days of the video phone, but you're too early. Like, you're destined to fail, but you have to innovate to get the rest of the world there, if that makes sense. I remember the early days of seeing video phones, and you don't need video phones. You just pick up your iPhone, you FaceTime, but somebody had to try, and somebody had to fail, and somebody had to, so what has happened is, going back to that tweet, what has happened is that the legacy media has kind of fed the enemy in Netflix, forced an arms race to the bottom with creating their own version of a Netflix. And really, it is just the evolution of IP television. And nobody really could pioneer it any other way. Netflix forced everybody's hand. But I think the only real difference, if you want to get really, really technical, is that once you take traditional television, whether you're watching it on demand or you're watching it like you watch your favorite channel on cable, like linear TV, I think the only difference once you bring it over to an IP backbone, and I know this is really nerdy stuff, but I think the only difference once you move it to an IP backbone is you've now opened up the ecosystem to interactivity. And all those things I saw on that rooftop at that rooftop event, which basically was just nothing more than watch parties and social listening like we were doing with Spotify. Because you can do watch parties on Disney Plus, right? I don't know if people do that, but you can do watch parties on Disney Plus. But opening it up into space now where you can do, and obviously I can't do that with you all here. There are retransmission rights, but they have a Spotify plugin, which means it's all kosher, right? So that's all fair game. But if you look at the future of where all of this is headed, I think what happens is one day your ABCs, your NBCs, and your CBSs no longer are over the air. They are over IP. And those airwaves get reallocated for other things, whether it's a Wi-Fi network or other use. But I think what happens is that all of our linear television becomes IP TV. And then that opens up a whole space. And what we were doing during the marathon is a very, very, it's a very small peek into that. Like I said, the social component, the gamification of the points, all of those pieces were so intriguing to me, and I just stumbled into them. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the market has caught up. The market has caught up to that rooftop from 20 some years ago, 15 years ago. And that, to me, that's a wild thing to realize, that the market has caught up. We've had great success. We took number 7 in Live Fest. We took number 7 in Live Fest this year without even really being in the parks. And that's a great success because that speaks volumes to the support that we have for whatever we're doing. And I'm so thankful for all of that support. And we're going to get back into the parks. Part of this whole evolution, I can't explain it enough, is that. Now, number one, I dread the idea of going. I dread the idea of going to Live Fest. I don't want to go to a party. I don't like going to airports. I don't mind the airplane. I got no issue with the airplane. Right? The lounge, the airplane, that whole part of the experience I enjoy. But the traveling, then the landing in LA at the airport and dealing with the airport and then being in LA and then having to go to a hotel and a bunch of people with phones and ring lights. And then I got to go to a party, and then I got to sit there and listen to people talk about I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Right? So now, and all I'd rather do is, reset my router, which is going to wind up being a 5-hour endeavor. I just know it. I'll be thrilled if it's something that gets done in 90 minutes. Because there's config and all that stuff that has to go into it afterwards. You just get to that point where I'm like, I'm so excited about what I'm embarking on here. I'm so excited about what I'm building that I'd rather not go to a party. I'd rather just keep working. And that's where I'm at. And my wheels are turning because I'm starting to think of all these little pieces and how they all lie on top of each other and how you can really create something that's never been done before. And I think I don't even mind talking about it because I just feel very comfortable in my spot in terms of executing. I mean, I'm days away from beginning to execute on a much larger plan. And I've got a list of notes of things I want to troubleshoot from the tech side of things to be able to get to round one. But I say all of this because I get these comments all over the time. You should change your name. Why aren't you in the parks? And like even the other day, I'm like trying to troubleshoot. Well, you should change your name. No, I shouldn't change my name. You should just stop watching. It's way easier for me. And again, if I made that joke yesterday on the podcast with Kenzie, I apologize. Maybe you hadn't heard that. And if you listen to both podcasts, thank you. But it's the truth. It's like, yo, chill. I didn't realize I was talking to a branding expert. Like, just chill. Like, that's the problem I have with all the commentary. Do you talk to your television that way? Because if you do, we got other issues to worry about. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, just chill. So that sometimes for me is a thing where I'm just like, it's too much. And I said it yesterday. I was like, it's too much. It's too much sometimes. In the early days, I used to get 30 Instagram messages a day. I'm not exaggerating. I used to get 30 Instagram messages a day. I'd stream in the parks all day long, and then I'd come home and I'd be flooded with messages. And I would respond to every single message the best I could because I was trying not to be rude. We're like, 3.5, 4 years into this? I turned off my Instagram messages this morning because I get too many messages. If you want to say something to me, tag me publicly in Discord. If you can't say it publicly, you know what I mean? It's just too much. And sometimes you feel like you want to suffocate. We feel you are suffocating. Not that you want to suffocate. You feel like you want to stop suffocating. But you feel like you're suffocating because it never ends. And that's the social side. And I'm fascinated by it. And I'm fascinated by the gamification. But I just want to work. And the same way I don't want to go to a party. It's like I don't want to go socialize. Like I love Cedar Couple. I love Sharif and Captain Eric. And these are my peers and Kira Elise. Like I've gotten to know these people. And I'm so thankful and so humbled to be number 7 in lifestyle and to go to LA to go to this event, but I don't want to. I'd rather work. I'm like on the cusp of something that is so much bigger than I can even vocalize. Right? I could vocalize it right now, but everybody would tune out because it would just be a bunch of gibberish. But I'm just on the precipice of doing something so interesting for this channel and any other channel you follow of mine. And that interactive social side, people playing the Spotify, that is just scratching the surface. But it becomes a game of focus for me. That's one of the things. It becomes a game of focus for me on all fronts. Now, moving on from that, what is it? Day 6 of the new year? We've had 2 major tragedies. And if you look at the way that we respond to these tragedies, if you look at the way that leadership responds to these tragedies, you got to ask yourself, how do we fix not just the environment that breeds these things, but also how do we change the response from the politicization to the conspiracy theorists, to all of it, right? Because the outrage is there. The outrage is real. Going back to Luigi and the United Healthcare, the outrage is real, right? So the idea of people hitting breaking point and acting out, I don't think it should surprise anyone. I think it's tragic. But when I see leadership politicizing things, and when I see the extent at which, the content that gets put out there in environments, particularly like Twitter, that are so driven by conspiracy in the pursuit of clicks. So I'm like, how much can you really blame legacy media? How much? And, our leadership is broken, and that's certainly bad too. But the more and more I look at it, I mean, like, the accountability is on the people. The accountability is on the people. Look at the comments. Look at the comments. I mean, myself too. I fall trapped to it all the time, especially on Twitter, because it's like what you're supposed to do, but that doesn't make it right. But look at the comments. Both the comments that endorse any of these tragedies or the comments that are trying to unearth what really happened, right? And so often I find there are people creating content in the pursuit of... I love that I get on this computer this like Adobe Flash player. Like, that tells you how old this computer is. Remind me never. I don't need Adobe Flash in my life ever again. There was a time. I find the real harm comes from us, because when you look at the comments that are designed for clicks, when you look at the comments that are designed to elicit a response irrespective of the quality of that content, and I don't mean objective quality, I mean, are you being genuine? Are you honestly posting something to have a conversation? More than times than not, you aren't. You know, you see content being posted, again, particularly on Twitter. I'm not even on Facebook, okay? I left Facebook ages ago because Facebook is just dreck. Facebook is just dreck all the way around. And dreck is Yiddish for trash. So I look at some of these posts and people are like literally sparking fires in the pursuit of clicks, and they know better. And when you have a culture like that, because they're doing it to seek monetization, they're not even doing it for attention at this point. They're doing it in the pursuit of money, right? And I mean, you look at that and you go, well, how can you really blame anyone else? How can you blame the leaders? How can you blame the media? When we as a people, given the opportunity to use these platforms for good or evil, whatever you want, however you want to qualify it, but given these platforms to create, you know, what they call UGC, user-generated content. That's how it used to be called before social media became the term. UGC. YouTube was UGC, user-generated content. And everything's been reduced to content. Part of that tweet I was talking about earlier in the show, and it talked about how things got reduced down in the TV industry, you know, and how it talked about how things like Star Wars got reduced down to content for Disney Plus, and how streamers basically eroded the film and TV industry in the pursuit of content, because now everything is content. This is content. Your comments are content. Some people aren't even here for what I'm saying. They're here for the comments. Sometimes they're here for their own comments. I can think of many people like that. So it is just one of these things when you look at the landscape as a whole, right? And you go, all right, well, it's so easy to go blame the media. The media's got an agenda, and I don't disagree with the notion. Blame our leaders are failing us. I don't disagree with the notion. But when we are given the opportunity in these social media platforms to generate our own content, and the content that seems to get through, the content that seems to have the most success is the content that is the most divisive, that stirs up the most vitriol. It's the content that is the most negative. It isn't education. It's not insight. It's not strategy. It's not life-affirming things. You know, and I'm not sitting here trying to be Dr. Phil. I'm just saying when you look at it from the larger perspective, you go, oh, okay, we have all of this access to information, but we have become less informed than ever because information moves so fast that we've lost our ability to do due diligence. And then you add the fact that everybody has the ability to speak now because of the comments and the interactive nature of all of the social platforms. And everybody has an equal voice. Now, I'm not saying that people don't deserve an equal voice, but I'm saying if you're the reader, okay, and everybody's voice is equalized in a forum like Twitter, okay, and I'm not saying that you should be censoring people. I'm certainly not saying that. But I'm saying, you know, and nobody's doing their due diligence. Now suddenly I'm just reading what any rando is writing on Twitter with an account and a following, and their following doesn't speak anything to credibility. right? And then people are starting to take it as gospel. That's like the advent of the printing press all over again, you know? So the idea of having access to all this information is fantastic, but what are you choosing to do with it? I am the biggest proponent of YouTube University. I tip my hats off to the people that make these videos. They are remarkable. That's not a sponsored sip, but in many ways it really should be. It's so good. It's not sponsored, but it really should be. I mean, if I told you how many days in a row that I mean the amount of time, I mean I've got Uno, I've got Tetris, how many days in a row, whatever, Connect 4, whatever sequence, whatever you want to call it, Rummikub, I got it. The amount of days in a row that I go to Dunkin', I got it all. I got every sequence, whatever game you're playing. It's the spread of information too fast. And I think what's so fascinating to me about YouTube University is you have all this stuff sitting there. And again, I tip my hat to these people because they have, you know, like the guys that I watch who I used as a guide, the girl that helped me get the parts for my computer at Best Buy, said, go check out these guys. Never heard of them. They got 15 million followers. And they're making these really quality videos. I mean, these are full-on productions. They've got multiple people in them. They got really nice shots, really nice camera work. They're well thought out, well scripted, well produced, well edited. I mean, and they're deserving of the 15 million followers because they're producing quality content. But it's there. The information's free. You don't have to go to college. You don't have to take a class. And I was talking to somebody on the phone about this the other day. That, and I may even it might have even been with Kenzie on the podcast, after the podcast, but people's lack of desire. It is a lack of desire, you know? So with all this access to information, it becomes a lack of desire. One of the things that I'm hoping to achieve as I embark on this evolution is to not just have a variety, but is to, and in many ways, these are the Epcot principles, but it's to inform, it's to educate, it's to inspire. I mean, it's to entertain. These are all different means to hopefully getting people to get off their tuchus and do their own thing. You know, if you can inform through entertainment, if you can inspire through entertainment, if you can educate through entertainment, or you can flip any of those. You can interchange. But what I'm getting at is creating quality content, leveraging the tools, the social platform, the interactive platform, and not just doing the same old thing, but pushing the boundaries once again. In the early days of this channel, it was DIY. And I lost a lot of followers going from DIY to Disney Parks Live, but I never changed the name. So trust the process. But I have every intent on having Park Lives, whether they're hosted by me or somebody else or just a floating camera and whatever it is. I got a million. I could do anything. I could do anything I want at this point, but that's not the point. Like, I want to be taking the time and being like, tune in this night every week, and we're building an animatronic together. You know, education. All right? I want to take the time to get people on this format, on the radio show, to talk about things, whether we're talking about animatronics and stuff like that in the DIY side, or whether we're talking to somebody who's a former cast member, or whether we're just talking to somebody about some issues in the world that maybe we want to focus on. So the quality will start to improve with more focus. But the platform as a whole, the foundation that has been built and introduced over just the last few weeks is really just a testing ground for something much more powerful. And I just can't help but think with the 650,000 some odd followers that I've got, okay, and I think we drop below 650, I'm going to start doing dances for the reverse threshold. All right, and again, I think I made that joke yesterday too, but it's one of those things for me where, like, I don't care about that, right? I don't care about the churn. That is not where the value is right now. To do new things, to embark on new things, and to push new boundaries, and to ultimately be able to provide those that want a variety of content that checks off all of those boxes. You know, we can just sit there and play video games. That's fun. Hang out, listen to music. That's entertainment. That's cool. Sometimes that's all you need. All right. But hey, let's learn a little something. How do you do this? I would love to be able to, you know, take the time to produce quality content. Maybe it's not the same kind of content that I was watching the other day when building this computer, but certainly the same sort of production value. Oh, and it's not out of scope. Obviously, that's my background. And it's something I've always been chasing, is getting back to more quality content. Not everything needs to be live. So when I look at the whole landscape, I go, oh, these live hits, these live streams, whatever you want to call them, these live broadcasts, they're shows, they're segments in what could become a large channel with much more quality content. And boy, I can't think of any viewer that wouldn't want more interesting content. I know everybody, you know, that started watching this channel came for one of two reasons, the DIY or the park lives. But there's so much more to offer. But also imagine being able to navigate the parks in a much more produced way. Nobody's going to do this. Nobody's going to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. So anyway, that's the scoop. That's where we're headed. That's the goal. I don't have really any desire to keep explaining it beyond what I've explained, mainly because I'd rather put that energy into development. We're very close to execution. Very close to execution. Okay, lots of trial and error. Very close to execution. Hence not wanting to go to Live Fest. I don't even want to go. I really will now spend the next 2 days convincing myself not to go. What's the point? I really would much rather do what I need to do here. I really would. I was up at like 6 something this morning. I was like, I should just do the radio show early and then get it done and upload it and just go reset my router, go run the 1 or 2 errands I got to do, handle the few pieces of paperwork I got to do, and then just get back into implementation and testing. But it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. I'm excited. You know, there's the Grogu animatronic that we started building during the marathon. We're going to get back to that. I have to pick up the Pampered Chef box that Colleen sent. I know people really like those segments. So, you know, all of these things in time, but I'm one person. I wish I had a staff. Okay, we'll get there. But I think this next year is going to be a massive boost in content quality. And I'm really hoping that I can come out the other end of this year with what I think will be, and I'm not going to give it a name, but what I think will become essentially a channel. I think not just like a page on a platform, but I think the idea of, you know, you look at like MTV, and you can watch MTV on Dish Network, you can watch MTV on DirecTV, or you can watch MTV on your cable or wherever, you know what I mean? So I love the idea of being able to start presenting content on multi-platform, wherever you want to watch it. Ellis doesn't want to leave TikTok. He loves his TikTok. He loves his tiny TV. Stay there. That's fine. You know. So there's a whole evolution. There's a whole vision. Hard to explain at times. And, you know, look, I'll say it again. I'm just like, there's going to be a churn rate. It's the price of doing business. I'm not really worried about it. But it's a focus game. It's a focus game. And I don't know how to say it any other way. So let's see. All right. Comments off on TikTok, check. Starbucks, check. Duncan, check. Name change comments are trite, check. Golden Globes, Ariana Grande looked like Polly Pocket stepping out of a Hess garbage truck, check. New Year's Eve tragedies, check. Rivers of America. All right, listen. All I know is that there's been, in theory, a reworking of what they're doing. I don't know to what extent, and I can't give you much more information, but all I'm hearing is that the front side of the river has got the potential, and I've heard this from multiple people now. It's the only reason I feel comfortable saying this, but that doesn't mean we should stop. But all indications are pointing to they're going to figure out how to keep the front of that river and introduce it into the project. Now, I don't know if it's true, but yesterday Big Thunder Mountain closed officially, and all I saw was clickbait about, this is the last shot of Big Thunder Mountain from the boat. Stop. Do something more productive with your time. So let's see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I'm looking at my notes, and I'm like, I don't think we should talk about that. I would like to say that somebody within the company has heard everything and knows that they need to change that project. The front side of the river needs to be maintained. They can do whatever they want from Tom Sawyer Island and beyond, but you need to maintain that look. If they take away, and I've said this 100 times, if they take away the front-facing portion of the river, then it's only a matter of time before Liberty Square and Hall of Presidents is ripped out. Now, I love the company. But I will say, I love the company more than I love the audience. Sorry. Okay? I love the company more than I love being a quote-unquote park streamer. Some people, you're not a park streamer because you haven't been to the park in days. Shut up. Whatever you want to call it, my love of the company outweighs the current administration, current leadership. It outweighs the current decision-making. My love of the company goes back to the legacy of the founder and his influence and his ability to affect change and his ability to break through barriers. So I will never trade that for anything else in the equation, nor will I sell out anything for that. You know what I mean? Like, for me, I just don't want the audience to ruin that for me. And that has been a very important thing. I've heard other people say that their audience has ruined Disney for them. And even when you have comments that are critical of the company, you welcome a certain level of backlash. And my response to that is simple. I don't owe you an answer, and you don't seem to have enough information, nor should you, about me to really have anything to say, period. My love of the company runs deep. My love of Walt Disney and his legacy runs deep, as it does for Jim Henson. So there becomes a point for me where I don't even want to put my foot in the sand anymore, because I don't feel the need to engage with people that really can't even understand it, nor do I feel the need to make them understand it. Like, I know where my connection lay with the company. I know where my understanding of the things, and like, to have to respond to glorified trolls because they don't like the way that, my opinions are structured based off of my experiences. Well, it's like, you can kiss my tuchus, because, I've got more than one connection to the company. And my feelings are all based off of love and admiration for the company. So sometimes I don't even want to touch the no pun intended, the world of Disney adults. It's toxic. I love Disney. I started this page for my love of Disney. I told you 100 times. I started going live at the park. It was a mental health escape for me. So the same reason that starting going live in the parks was a mental health escape for me is the same way that me doing whatever the hell I feel like doing with my channel is going to be in the name of my own mental health. And I don't care about names. I don't care about branding. I don't care about who watches, who doesn't watch, who follows, who unfollows. I do not care. At some point, we will be back in the parks. The comment I look forward to the most is, it's so nice to see you back in the parks. Great. I'm just going to tell everybody it's a replay. Because at this point, we've gone from the early days of, is this a replay, to literally doing replays. So even when I'm live, I'm going to be like, it's a replay. I can't respond to you. I'm sorry. You just reach that point, I mean, I'm literally at the point where I don't even want to be on camera anymore. You know, in my 20s, it was all about auditioning and stand-up comedy. And although in many days I do want to get in front of the microphone again, not this microphone, that microphone, very different microphone. But in my 20s, you know, this would have been like, I would have been like all over the place with this, like in the sense of like, you know, like I would have eaten this up. Now I'm like reluctant. Now I don't even want to be on camera. You know, now I'm like, step away. Like, let's find some other people to focus on and let me just produce. You know, because it's exhausting. It's exhausting. It's like, I don't stop, you know, and I'm not saying that to pat myself on the back, but like, I don't stop. Like, I go from one thing to the next. My lists have lists, you know, and I'm not complaining. That's just the way I'm wired. I don't stop. But what does that mean? That means that I put a value on everything. People get upset when I don't respond to their messages. I don't respond to your messages because I don't have time. Unless there's a reason to respond, I don't respond unless I intuitively have something to say. Like if I can't think of something to say in 3 seconds, I move on. You know how many text messages I have that I don't respond to, or I respond to a day later? Because if it's not like at the top of my mind, it's not at the top. Like this is the way I am. So and people, what are you talking about? It's a long game. It's a long game. It's a focus game, and it's a long game. And we're only, I don't know, not even year 4 into this long game. Okay, so we're still not even in the long game. Okay, we're still in the short game as far as I'm concerned. Talk to me in year 5. Okay, talk to me in year 10, because year 10 is the 5-year plan from today forward. You see, I'm not looking at tomorrow. I'm looking at the end of next year. I'm looking at the 2-year, and then I'm looking at the 5-year right now. And what I see is something that's got far more potential, all right, and far more value. And I know that when it's all said and done, that it's going to work from the viewer perspective, because one of the things that I'm really looking to do is to let people go back to just watching. You know, one of the trappings of TikTok is the gifting side, and I know YouTube has started to embrace that. But I think at the end of the day, I would much rather just let people watch. And I would start to lean on the subscriber side of things, you know, which is sort of like a one and done, you know, and traditional revenues. We talked about diversification as a whole. So when I look at that, I say, and I've said this to TikTok executives, I go, this is not a scalable solution. I mean, depleting your viewership. How are you asking people on TikTok to gift and the shop on TikTok? Like, I understand that at the end of the day, everybody's selling something. Kenzie and I had a whole breakdown on this yesterday on the podcast. But I understand that at the end of the day, even when you're watching TV, you're being sold something. As we've said before, TV shows are space, are space being filled between ads. You know, TV shows are just there to fill the space. So you're always being sold something. And the notion of direct to consumer is fantastic. If I've got a website and I want to sell you a widget and you like my widget, you can go to my website. But from the content perspective, I would much rather be providing a viewer experience that's passive from the monetization side of things. Hey, I subscribed, I support you, than having to be working leaderboards. You know, it can be fun from time to time. But I find that from a business perspective, it's not scalable and it can be exhaustive. And I'm, just one of these people that's transparent. The same way when I'm showing you the TikTok products, I'm not going to sit there and tell you to buy it. And I'm certainly not going to sit there and tell you I like everything. If I find something wrong with something, I'm honest to a fault. Okay? White lies here and there, but honest to a fault, but sometimes you got to lie in the name of business. You have to just lie. You just got to polish the turd is really the saying. It's not even a lie. But when we're talking about something like that, I'm not going to sell out my audience and go, oh, you should buy every one of these products. No, if the product blew up my microwave, I'm going to tell you 100 times not to buy it. By the way, don't buy the boba off the TikTok shop. There's something metallic in the thing that they tell you to put in the microwave, and then your microwave is going to catch fire. So there you go. I'm going to remind you again. But all of that to say, it's the diversification of revenue. So when I look at the future, I would much rather be like, oh, I have subscribers on TikTok. I have subscribers on Twitch. I have subscribers on YouTube. And I've got revenue coming in from traditional ad models. And then I've got videos that are on demand. And I don't have to share any of this with the audience, but we're doing a radio show, and I wanted to give you insight. And it seems like there's never enough insight. Okay, and then what it does is it welcomes feedback. I'm not looking for feedback. So please, I've already turned off my Instagram messages. I don't want feedback. I'm just sharing with you. If you want to give me feedback, there's comments on video. Like that, you put the comments out there, but I don't need DMs. Oh, I heard what you had to say, and I really wanted to give you my 2 cents. I don't want it. So, and that's just because I don't have time, right? Like if I am going on this trip, I haven't even packed yet. But I got to go upload this show. Then I got to go drop off packages. Then I got to pick up the packages, come back to my house, take care of some paperwork, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like, so I got stuff to do. And then what happens is like I get caught up in all this stuff. So help me out and minimize the amount of engagement that I have to have in between broadcasts. Peace and love, like Ringo Starr. But what I see happening with the diversification of everything is I see truly like a streaming channel being born. And now you can be in the parks live. Okay. And I don't have to cut the stream to go to the restroom or to drive. Like, how cool is that? Like, oh my God, we left the Magic Kingdom. Okay. He's about to, go to his car or whatever. We'll take the monorail back to Epcot, go to the car. And then instead of cutting the live and saying, I'll see you later, it'd be like, well, now I'm going to air this special that we've put together for you. So now it's not just a Zen loop. Here's something you've never seen before. Here is a blah, blah, blah. Or I'm going to air, a replay of, yesterday's podcast. If you haven't listened to the podcast, here's a video presentation. In other words, you have the opportunity now. Or, hey, if you missed the animatronic live from the other night, you know what I mean? So now suddenly, those who want to hang out, right, and engage in the social side of things, they don't have to leave. They don't have to leave. Or if they do leave, they can jump back in and know that they can just check in and check out any time of the day. One of the things people used to love about my early lives is that I was live all day long and they could just jump in and jump out and see where I'm at. Well, that's not scalable as one human being for the rest of your life. So what I'm looking at is taking the internet side of things back to the traditional television model. Capiche? That's it. I'm going to get to work. I'll be on TikTok. I'm going to turn the comments on in a minute. That's all I wanted to say today. I want to get all of that out again. Tomorrow we'll take your calls. I'm going to end it on YouTube. I'm going to turn the comments on TikTok. We'll do a team lift, and then we'll come back a little bit later doing something somewhere, somehow, I guess.